Hi everyone, welcome to Poetry and Talk. Poetry and Talk is a new online interviewing platform for poets to share their poetry, background, and inspiration. We're so grateful that you're watching today. We have a new guest poet to introduce you to. Please stay connected with us on our Facebook page, Poetry and Talk. Be on the lookout for new poet videos, and please take a moment to watch some of the poet interviews already uploaded. If you are a poet and you're interested in being interviewed on Poetry and Talk, please send an email to us at poetryandtalk@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with scheduling and information. Thank you again for watching. I'm Leslie Sue, the host for Poetry and Talk, and I'd like to welcome our guest poet for today, Mayra Melgar. Welcome, Mayra.
Thank you so much, and I feel welcome already. I appreciate those words very much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here. We're excited to find out all about your poetic journey. So if you'd like to give us a brief introduction to one of your poems and then read that.
Yes, definitely. First of all, my name is Mayra Melgar, and I am from Bakersfield, California. It's in Kern County. And what I'm going to share with you is a poem that I wrote that is called She Has Seen This Before. I wrote this piece during one of my hospitalizations and one of the trips to the emergency room due to anxiety and stress during the pandemic. When the pandemic started, I thought that I was having a heart attack or that definitely I had the virus. And when I got to the emergency room, I saw a lot of despair, but I also saw a lack of personal protection equipment and also lack of ventilators. Due to the fact that my daughter was born with half of a heart and she had an open heart surgery on her first week of life on this earth, that thought brought troubling memories and what would have happened if my daughter had been born in the week, when we didn't have enough ventilators, because the ventilators saved her life multiple times. So I wrote this piece, and you're going to see a glimpse of her life. You're going to also see a glimpse of the kindness of people, friends, co-workers, colleagues, and strangers, doctors and nurses. And you're also going to see in this poem the byproducts of having born with a very severe illness. In this case, hypoplastic left heart, commonly known as being born with half of a heart. And it goes like this. It is called She Has Seen This Before. She has seen this before. Nurses, doctors rushing to the baby who's trying desperately to draw a breath and finding none to be had. She has seen this before. Resuscitation by compression of her tiny chest with the great possibility of having her barely put back together ribs broken again. She has seen this before. The baby placed in the anesthesiologist's arms and being whisked away to the operating room while listening to the words, "Please, God, let this not be the last time I see this baby alive." She has seen this before. In the post-surgery room, the little baby's body is covered by tubes and cords, some coming out of her mouth, groins, and lungs, and from everywhere else where there is a hole. She has seen this before, caring, compassionate doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, and more, yet with the overwhelming feeling of being in the middle of a real war zone with imminent threats at any given moment and from every direction, alone. She has seen this before. In the recovery room, a bloody nasal gastric tube needs to be replaced. Later that day, a gastroenterologist announces that a new gastric tube ought to be surgically placed. This is a life-saving procedure, he explains. The baby needs to be ready for the next surgery and needs to gain weight. She has seen this before. Back at the hospital room, the ever-ending beeping of monitors, the IV pole, the countless treatments, hundreds of shots, months of interrupted sleepless nights, terrifying nightmares of fright. Yet, softly whisper prayers. Please, God, please let the baby stay alive. She has seen this before. Back at the hospital once again, the baby has become a toddler and the closest companion is still her IV pole. Walking through the hospital's halls with a feeding bag and a pump clamped to the pole. Sometimes the toddler follows the pole in its shadow, and other times the toddler is followed by the pole. She has seen this before. Neighbors, co-workers, friends, taking a break from her own struggles, coming by the baby's bedside. Some bring offerings that nourish the body and the soul. Others bring the gift of life and leave part of themselves behind. A reminder that in the worst of time, the best human behaviors rise up to the highest level of nobility. Is this what caregiving looks like? She has seen this before. A regular office visit becomes a hospital stay. Siblings need to be picked up from school. There's a long list for the day. Siblings looking forward to a movie date. Respite care is in place. There's something wrong, but we don't know what it is yet. We need a catheterization. Prepare for a week stay. She has seen this before. In the waiting room, there is a doctor's debate. A catheterization might not suffice, says one. We might need to operate. The mother is also debating with herself. The worst battles are fought inside our heads. Thoughts bouncing all over the place, from joy to anger, from gratitude to despair, from light to darkness, from heaven to hell. She has seen this before. In the post-surgery room, the child is waking up from yet another surgery. A subtle smile is on her face. She locks eyes with the surgeon and they hold an intense gaze. I might not fully understand all the medical and terminology, but I do understand his soul. It is obvious that so did the child. With their eyes, they have said it all. She has seen this before. Scars that loving fingers have repeatedly traced on a body that looks like a battleground from being cut open, heavily bruised, a stitch lacerated, a staple, and more. They're marks of valor, life-saving heroes' autographs, and visual signposts of all the battles fought and won. She has seen this before. Heroic kindness in teachers, parents, and other adults towards the scarred warrior as the bullies and shamers viciously place a soul-crushing stunt. Do they know that by protecting bullied, scarred kids, they might be saving their lives once more? Saving them from the invisible yet agonizing mental scars. Perhaps saving them from isolating, paralyzing, and drowning depression that pushes some of these kids to committing suicide. Choosing to use what every human being possesses, the superpower life-saving decision to be an upstander. Isn't that right? She has seen this before, a crying teen in the middle of the night, pleading with God to make things all right. The byproducts of the illness, depression, anxiety, fears that make life an unbearable plight. The teen is falling apart. Diligent work has been done. Every school requirement and expectation. quizzes and exams and every other obligation. Classmates have chosen the colleges that they have always dreamed. The teen, the closest one to her medical team. High school friends picking out prom tuxedos and prom gowns, while the teen is donning yet another hospital gown. She has seen this before. Dreams of serving, volunteering like the siblings did before. No big deal. She knows the ropes, has the grades, the stellar recommendation. She has it all. The recruiter gives high fives. Huh, with flying colors, you will pass. Hey, wait, I'm really sorry. No, 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 it's not you. It's your illness. Your application has been denied. She has seen this before. Now a young adult, college graduate, a biologist, working in the medical field. A pandemic has occurred. People are suffering with COVID-19. Grandparents, parents, the family's keepers, society's strong oaks are in danger. Pink lips and nails turning blue, fluid collecting around lungs, laborious breathing. COVID-19 is an evil stranger. She has not seen this before. Critical medical supply shortage, personal protective gear and great need for ventilators. People's lungs are flooded, faces filled with terror, like a fish out of water with non-existent ventilators. She has not seen this before. Governments around the world asking every single soul, please, I beg you, please stay indoors. Some call it social distancing, self-isolation, seclusion, staying at home. It really is a life-saving practice for everyone in the world. Becoming someone's hero is now within our reach. The embrace and kiss shall not be given. Please stay home. Please just do it. Don't you just preach. She has seen this before. The young adult has been through it all. Nurses, doctors, rushing to the baby who's trying desperately to draw a breath and finding none to be had. None. This time, there was no need for resuscitation. The battle was not theirs to be won. There were not enough ventilators. Freedom of association and ego had won. And that was, she has seen this before.
Yes, thank you, Mayra. Before you elaborate on this, and you've taken it full circle, and she's seen this before. First, you're reflecting on all the hospital experiences with your daughter, and you're elaborating on all this and expressing this and what she experienced in a poetic form. And then you're bringing us up to date with her as more of an adult and what's going on currently with COVID. And is it correct that you wrote this when you went into the hospital initially when COVID started, and then that kind of prompted this whole poem? Is that correct?
That's very correct. Yeah, I've never written before. I had always been busy raising 5 children and being a teacher and a chef. And I was also a traveling chef. And then so when the pandemic started and this happened and I started having anxiety attacks and thinking that I was going to die because I was out of breath and I was in the hospital 3 times in 1 month, it's when I started looking at the suffering and I started watching and hearing people talking about not having enough masks, not having enough personal protection gear. And what broke my heart and brought all these troubling memories back again is that they didn't have enough ventilators for a baby that was there, and they sent her to another hospital. And I was, that baby looked like really, really sick. And then all of a sudden I saw my daughter, and she had her first open heart surgery at 5 days old, and she went on and had another open heart surgery when she was 29 days old, and another one 3 in 1 year. But every single and multiple times, a ventilator saved her life, and that's how, laying there on my bed in the hospital room, I wrote this, uh, thinking about that experience.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Continue to share with us about this. So you were in the hospital for anxiety. It's the beginning of the COVID epidemic, and you're seeing all these things going on, and it's also kind of sounds like it's triggering things that you experienced with your daughter. And as you're laying in the hospital bed, you're actually writing the poem that you just read to us, and you're making the observations, but you're also reflecting back on all that you've experienced with your daughter.
Yes, that's correct. I feel well, with 5 kids and being a chef and being a teacher, and I being with thousands of students for 19 years in the LA Unified School District. I work with the most fragile children in the special education. So I was also working under the supervision of doctors and RNs, registered nurses. And I was in charge of taking care of kids with heart problems before my daughter was born. I was in charge as a young girl, young woman, to take care of, to do ostomy care, to do clean and sterile catheterizations, to go to all these workshops, medical workshops with doctor. And I didn't know that life and God was preparing me to become, a nurse for my daughter later in life. And yes, and also nothing prepared me to the kindness of people and the kindness of strangers and the abundant, overwhelming feeling of love and protection, safety that people gave me in the hospital during those 3 years that she was in and out of the hospital with multiple surgeries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I saw the mother that day when I was with my anxiety attack, and I saw the baby. The baby was like recently born. And all of a sudden I saw my daughter's face. And for them to say that they didn't have a ventilator for her, for the baby, is what brought all these feelings and these memories. And that's how I have never written before. And all of a sudden I guess through the pain, the memories, and the attacks, and thinking that I was going to die, because it's terrible when you're having a terrible anxiety attack. It's that I wrote this. She has seen this before. Yeah.
And yes, and this was your first poem?
Yes, this was my first poem.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm. And so this was several months ago, maybe back in March?
I wrote it on my birthday. Actually, I was with a panic attack on my birthday, and I remember having my kids on Messenger, and all my kids were there, and I was with all these tubes and masks, and my soul, my heart, my mind was in a hurry to write something before I thought that I was going to pass away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So before this, you had not written any poetry?
No, I've never written any poetry before.
Mm-hmm. And when was this written? How many months ago?
This was written in April 7th.
I see. I see. And since that time, in terms of poetry, have you kind of continued to reflect upon this? Have you written about it more? Have you gone into some other subject matter?
Well, you know how they say that we all have a book filled with stories inside of us, and they're just ready to be discovered, and we don't know how we underserve ourselves with this powerful tool of writing. And well, on April the 7th, on my 57th birthday, a writer was born, because I stopped writing for a while after everything that had happened. And through the anxiety, what I decided is that I was going to start cooking and baking bread for my neighbors and the people at my church and my former bosses. So I was trying to do it therapeutically, to cook. So I was cooking 2 or 3 times a day, 7 days a week for weeks at a time. And that really helped me. And I never thought of writing again. I wrote that, I shared it with my daughter. And she didn't respond to me after 2 weeks. And I respected her silence. And then she was very moved by what I had written. And she encouraged me to write more, but I forgot about it because I was so busy cooking, trying to deal and cope with the anxiety that I was going through. And then after a 1 day of cooking for 3 families, I came feeling very tired, took my sleeping pill, and then all of a sudden I checked my phone. And all of a sudden it was my mom, that she had left a message and saying that my brother-in-law had just been killed, and that she, being an 80-year-old woman, you can imagine an elderly woman getting on her car from California to Mexico to try to find out who has killed, his son-in-law, whom she adores and loves as her own son, and while taking care of my sister who had just had surgery in California and is staying at my mom's house. And she has been taking care of her because she has this wound. And she has a nurse that is coming every single day to alleviate my sister's pain. And all of a sudden, my sister's husband, has been assassinated, and we don't know what's going on. So she jumps on the car. She goes to Mexico, trying to find out during the pandemic. She's not supposed to be out and about because of COVID. And I am, my anxiety is off charts. And well, we find out what's going on. We find out that he was delivering some goods from his store, and then some people just came and inside the store where he was, and he wasn't the only one killed that day, and it was just a random shooting. So trying to deal with all of that, we figured out a way to come out of this, and something was missing. Nothing was working. My cooking, nothing was working. But we resolved it, and he was laid to rest. But on the other hand, my sister, the one with the surgery, and the one who had just lost her husband, had to be there and be strong for my 4 nieces and nephews. And all of a sudden, she's a widow, and she's in bed recuperating for surgery. She's not eating, she's not sleeping, she's getting sick. She needs to be rushed to the hospital. And a week later of being into the hospital, my niece gets the worst cold that a daughter can get, and they let her know that my sister had gotten COVID and that she's on life support, and that her brain function has stopped, and that the family has 2 options: either let her heart stop on her own, but she's going to be in pain, and she said actually in agonizing pain, or disconnect her. So at that moment, they called me, we had a meeting, we went on Zoom, and the whole family said our goodbyes and prayers and some chants, and we say goodbye to our sister at that moment. And then we did all the logistics, all the calls and logistics, of having lost my brother-in-law and my sister in 3 weeks, and then, when it rains, it pours. And so we decided at that moment that to do everything that we needed to do, but I was left, which I'm sure the rest of my family, with a dark cloud of grief. And we didn't understand why so much pain was necessary. How do we need it? What area we needed to grow? How do we needed to pray? How we can do things differently so the pain will subside, or at least get a little bit less. And I can only talk to you personally, but all this multi-layer emotions, were occupying my mind, and racing thoughts were in my mind all the time. I wasn't able to sleep properly. And then so I did, I don't like, I never had any vices. I never drink, smoke, do drugs or anything like that. So I didn't ever wanted anything or anybody, to hold me hostage to anything. So I got really, really angry when I realized that this monster, with multi-headed monster was occupying my mind, and he was occupying my space rent free. So I got so upset, and I got up very resolved one day, and I said, there's no way that I can allow this to happen. If all these emotions, all these tormenting feelings and thoughts are going to be in my mind, let's put them to work. Let's do something for humanity. Let's do something for myself. You're not going to live in my head rent free anymore. I'm not going to allow to occupy my space and hold me hostage. And I felt not a gentle nudge and not a small little poke. All of a sudden I felt this like violent, brutal push, that you need to put this in writing, Mayra. It's either write or die. And then I started writing, and I haven't stopped writing ever since. And going through my depression, my anxiety, the silver lining of all these episodes of pouring and raining over my life and over my family in 2020, there is a silver lining. And the silver lining is that I found my son's pain. My son, this teenager who had been with depression and anxiety, and I didn't understand how to help him properly. And that I did eventually, he asked for help, and we were able to take him with a psychiatrist and put him on medicine, and he's on therapy, and he's doing so much better. And then a poem was born out of all this trial tribulation, when I was able to identify with my son's pain, and the pain of my boss, who is a veteran of war. And I have seen the tears, and I have seen the anguish with my neighbor, whose daughter has a debilitating depression. And looking and hearing the story and watching people suffer, and having suffered myself with anxiety and maybe borderline depression, something was born. And I wrote many poems, but I would like to share with you, if you allow me, what was born from this experience.
Yes, please.
And it's called The Monsters Inside. And in this poem, you will get a glimpse of my son's life, just like you did she has seen this before. You have seen a glimpse, you have taken a peek into my daughter's life. And this one is a peek and a glimpse into my son's life. And so it is my responsibility to say that this was inspired by pain of others, and the suffering and depression of others, but also mine. And it's called The Monsters Inside. The child gets off the school bus. This child gets off the school bus holding a single flower inside a vase. He runs towards the front door with a big smile on his face. This is for you. Happy birthday. I wish I could give you the sun, the moon, the world. I promise one day I'll take your faraway places when I grow up and you're not too old. The preteen comes inside the house with a subtle smile and a new friend. How was your day? Are you guys hungry? Here is your package that was sent. I hear some laughter and half of the food is gone. Homework is done, they announce. Good night and thanks for dinner, the new friend says. It's time for me to bounce. The teen comes back from school, How was your day? Fine, he answers as he closes his room's door. Dinner is ready. Come and join us. I'm not feeling well. The teen responds. Are you able to listen?
Yeah, we don't see you though, but we can hear you. Can you put your video back on, Mayra? Okay. Why don't you go ahead and continue? We can see you now.
Okay, would you like me to start again?
If you could continue where you were, that would be fine, please.
Okay, so the teen comes back from school. How was your day? Fine, he answers as he closes his room's door. Dinner is ready. Come and join us. I'm not feeling well, the teen responds. Do you mind if I eat alone? Lately, this has become a pattern. He will grow out of it, says an expert. It's age, a stage. It's a phase, that's all. Is really that all? I've heard that anything that's not talked about and stays in the dark, it's a way, part of our soul. The teen is not getting better. Talks about the future, friends, laughter, a healthy appetite, no more. Motivational quotes with unrealistic views and expectations are disregarded, rejected, and dropped. Caring school counselors, teachers, and coaches are in the loop. They accommodate, ask, and have a talk. Recommendations are followed to the best of their ability. The teen is still isolated, confused, alone. Are you tired? No. Exhausted. Are you sad? No. Destroyed. But why? Ungrateful child, says one. You have everything you need: food, shelter, transportation, and games. What else could you want? I will try once again more to explain, the teen says. I could pretend, fake a smile, and say that I'm okay. I am daily tormented in my head, anxious, falling apart, crying inside. The future looks in disarray. How am I feeling today? My heart and my mind are racing. I have a knot in my stomach and in my throat. I haven't slept for days. I'm living inside a nightmare where every monster has been provoked. My thoughts are all scattered. My emotions are in a roller coaster and feels like a heart attack. These moments, just like my life, don't strike a deal, don't negotiate. These monsters, they just brutally attack. I feel blamed, judged, fearful, worried, and exhausted of holding on when all I want is to give up. I could hide and mask my uncontrollable tremors, lethargy, anxiety, and not dare to open up. Some might think I am being overly dramatic. Monsters are not real, and I just need to grow up. Some monsters don't hide in closets or under beds. They rage and scream inside my head nonstop. If I share with you about the monsters that live in my head and I am in pain, would you care? If I tell you that these monsters that have taken away my hope, my dreams, my peace, my joy, and they leave me grasping for air, would you believe if I say to you that I'm being held against my will and they've locked away the real me? This monster used to whisper, but now they loudly scream. You know the permanent solution. Flee. I share, got help. Some believed me, some did care. I also learned some valuable lessons on the way. Most parents care beyond our belief and far more than we them credit for. They also pray. I also learned that not everyone that says that they will be there for you will take the time to be, and that's okay. I learned the difference between bitterness and healthy boundaries. If someone is going to hold the worst moment of my life against me, I'm moving on. I can't stay. I now heard the vile lies told by depression, PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks, and other mental illness. The soul crushing lies whisper, you're not important. You're a loser, unworthy. There's no forgiveness. Then it escalates and it shouts, you're a burden. Your family will be better off without you. Cease. No one will believe you, care, or love you anymore. This is our secret. You can escape this disease. Some people know for sure that anxiety, depression, and mental illness come with the sin in us. Some say it's lack of faith, lack of courage, lack of willpower. If things happens to us, they happen because of us. Some suggest to fight it, hide it, pray it away. If we pretend it's not here, it will eventually go away. We're going to say a prayer, snap our fingers, cast out demons. Now, just close your eyes and wait. I must confess that I do have faith. I am a spiritual being, and I know that there is a force greater than myself. But I also know that I need others, treatment, a therapist, a support group, and even meds for my health. Mental illness is often stigmatized, stereotypes, and misunderstood with frequency. Social, cultural, ethnic backgrounds, religious beliefs, and personal beliefs might create a culture of secrecy. How are you feeling today? The therapy asks to the group. This shy and quiet kid that sits by the corner raises her hand. Every time I am questioned, she says, I feel like crawling up in a fetal position inside my head. The most pain is suffering silence as another. My world is spinning and I am crumbling inside. I feel like I'm being sucked inside a black hole and I need someone to reach out and hold my hand. It is my turn to share. It is my last day in this group. Graduation day, from hell and back and more. There was a time when my house didn't feel like a home. My body and my mind were not safe anymore. There were monsters screaming inside my head, like scams through the phone. My identity was gone. I was painfully and slowly fading away from this earthly realm, greatly suffering from sunrise to dawn. Everywhere I went, this dark cloud followed. I felt invisible, unwanted, and I couldn't see my own shadow. Well-intentioned people reminded me, there are mountains to climb, lives to touch, and a Cupid's arrow is almost here. Hills and valleys of life are inescapable, and that injured soldiers are better than those soldiers at all. Family said they love me, and that in their imperfect love has always been covered by a higher perfect love. Just in case you are wondering, the monsters are not totally gone. Sometimes they want to bite. Armed with oxygenated confidence, I tell myself, you have no power over me, and I win the fight. I am on the road to recovery, moving forward, keeping life tools close and not forgetting what is real. Life does get better. Some people do care. Hold on while you're reaching out. I'm here for you. Do we have a deal? The young adult gets off the car, holding a bouquet of flowers in a beautiful vase. He walks towards the front door, knocks at the door, and with a big smile on his face, "This is for you. Happy birthday. I wish I could give you the sun, the moon, the world. I have tickets for the movies and for your favorite restaurant. I'll hold your hand and we'll go for a short stroll. My precious boy, have you forgotten that once you did take the sun and the moon's light with you? When you were inside the black hole, holding on for dear life, son, there was a dimming light. This place was dark, and the light at the end of the tunnel was never and nowhere in sight. I waited on the other side, and luckily and thankfully, you brought back with you the sun, the moon, and the world held in your hands." So that's the monsters inside.
Yes. Thank you, Mayra, for sharing that. I'm glad that you have found writing and poetry as a source of expression, given, as you said, the whole multi-layered experiences that you've gone through personally and in your family life, and extended life. There's some of your friends and neighbors and whatnot, and nudge, as you mentioned, that you had to write, and then it was very powerful and was letting you know that this was something that you needed to do. We only have a few moments left. What would you like to leave us with for some closing comments, please, Mayra?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you and your listeners and for allowing me to express myself through this poetry and from these pieces of writing. I do not consider myself a poet, but I am very grateful for the opportunity to come and read these pieces. And I just want to let you know that through this pandemic, through the losses of life, through all the losses of hope, and sometimes we're just holding on to dear life, knowing what's there to come, that there is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a solution to everything. Everything has a solution except death.
Thank you, Mayra. That was beautiful. Are there any social media connections or anything that you'd like to share with us so we could stay connected with you?
Yes, I'm actually, I have created a way for other people to come and write and share the stories with us. And it's called In the Right Hands, www.intherighthands.org. And you will find there also I am a chef on a mission to improve health. So you will find there recipes, how I have been able to reverse diabetes, how I've been able to help with people with other illnesses, but mostly you will find there inspirations of people like yourself and I.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Okay, we'll make sure we include that in the post. We do need to wrap things up. I'd like to thank you for sharing some personal history with us, and also reading your writings, your poetry, and letting us in on what's going on. And we wish you a lot of success and full healing, and for the dark clouds to go away. But getting through it and facing it, as you have. And of course, as I mentioned, glad that you have the writing as an avenue of expression. And we hope you stay connected with us and let us know how things are going with you.
Yes, thank you so very much once again. And it's been my privilege and honor to be part of this beautiful and wonderful and illuminating program that you have.
Thank you, Mayra. We appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. Again, please stay connected with us on our Facebook page, Poetry and Talk. We appreciate your support. I'd like to thank our guest for today, Mayra. Again, everybody, thanks for staying with us and watching us. We'll talk soon on the next Poetry and Talk. Until then, stay well and be blessed. Thank you.
Bye.